Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zeke, and welcome to ERO PC 1 Season 7. Today we are at the Bahrain International Circuit from Bahrain, obviously. Uh, we've got a full grid today, although we've got a couple of drivers who will be joining us throughout qualifying. They're just running a little bit late today, which is Matthias Jelinek in the Mercedes and Kasper Niemczyk in the Red Bull, but they will be coming in and joining up with us. So that should sort everything out, and we will have a full 20 drivers to start the race. As we are just waiting for a few drivers to select their tyre compounds, which is a little bit pointless considering you can't actually change anything on F1 2021, and we'll get going with qualifying here. The two PC tiers that have already driven this track this week, qualifying was incredibly close, so I expect to see a similar outcome today, as we just make sure everything is set up correctly on the screen, all of our telemetry and things, and we'll wait to see which drivers choose to take to the track first. You can see the Mercedes of Marek Znamorowski there is being dropped already, so he's happy he's selected his setup and will potentially be our first driver on track. Ooh, actually no, we've got movement further down the pit lane from the Haas of Lucas Dirksen, who is going to be the first car out. So we'll see what sort of laps we are going to get today. Everyone's coming out on the softs, which is quite interesting. Oh, there we go. We have got some guys out on the medium tyres, actually. But Lucas is leading them around, and he is on those soft tyres, so he's neglecting to start off his qualifying with a medium run, and instead just going to try and put in the best time he possibly can. And we're probably going to be looking somewhere around a low 26, possibly dipping into the 1 minute 25s for our pole time here. So the drivers will be looking to get as close to that as they possibly can. Just a bit of a skip there from Lucas as he just put on AI mode to write a message in the Discord to one of our drivers, just running a little late. But it's quite an interesting track here at Bahrain. There's plenty of places where you can overtake, and 3 DRS zones, which is going to allow the following cars to stick close, even if they have possibly a little bit of a tyre disadvantage, or a little bit of a just raw pace disadvantage. So expect to see some quite drawn out, quite extensive fighting going on up and down the grid. And because there are so many places where you can make moves, there's very few corners where an overtake would be impossible. They're pretty reasonable most places. You're going to be... Oh, hang on. Yeah, just a disconnect from our lobby host up for today, unfortunately, Quill Pavlakovic, so that has reset the lobby host to whoever's got the best connection, as Lucas is just starting his flying lap here, and throws it into turn 1, seems to get the apex pretty well there. He gets on the power, keeps it in track limits through turn 2 and 3. The RS open here, this is the second zone if you count the pit straight as zone 1. Down into third gear here for turn 4, manages to keep it in track limits on the outside. You can ride quite a lot of that curb, it does allow you to open up the corner, get on the power a bit earlier. Down the 5th and 6th here for the sweeping turn 6 and 7. Hard on the brakes for the tight hairpin at turn 8. Bit of a tricky traction zone here, especially with these guys not running the traction control systems. And then hard on the brakes, very easy to lock that inside front left, as you see Lucas does a little bit. Manages to keep some slight rotation, so he's not going to flat spot that tyre as he drops it into the tricky turn 10. DRS open here, down this sort of a back straight, but not really. And then into the sweeping 11 and 12. Turn 12 here, if you touch this inside curb, it will kill you very quickly. So we might see some drivers losing it there as he's just coming up on a guy on his outlap who is Freddy gets out of the way, but unfortunately Lucas has invalidated the lap. So we'll see who's just behind. I think that's Paolo in the Williams, it is. On the medium tyres, it's a 106.2 for the second sector, which is pretty decent. So he's going to be looking for somewhere around about a mid to high 27, I would think, for this lap, which on the mediums is a very good lap. And yeah, it's a 27.9. And Marek immediately jumps out with a 26.7 on the soft tyres. That's an excellent lap for his first time round. Tuku with just a 28.2 on those mediums, but I am with a 27.3 on mediums. Just 0.6 behind Marek. The delta between the tyres here is about 1.2 seconds. as Matthias Gola puts in a new fastest with a 26.6. Times coming in thick and fast. Everyone's going to be roughly doing the same thing, but we see the power of these soft tyres though. The top three so far have set their laps on the softs. Ian and Johnny just 7 thousandths between the AlphaTauri boys, currently 4th and 5th. They have very, very strong laps on the mediums with 27.3s. And Fraser in the McLaren does a 27.2, so that's top 4 on those soft tyres, showing once again just how powerful they are. There's a huge delta difference between the softs and the mediums, especially for a track with, well, it does have some slow corners. It's definitely not a track with a lot of traction zones. It's more the sweeping corners the soft tyres allow you to carry so much more speed. As we see Padraig in the sister McLaren just coming up to the final sector here, well, final corners here of 14 and 15, hard on the power, and DRS wide open down this pit straight, and he's going to do a 26.9 on the soft. So again, just showing where they stand in terms of the delta, and kind of showing how good those medium laps from the AlphaTauri boys, from Ian and Johnny, really are. Within 6-7 tenths of current pole position, provisional pole position from Matthias Gola, on a tyre over a second slower, as Ian goes even faster on a second flying lap on those medium tyres with a 1:27.0. That is a lap time that would have been good enough for pole in PC3 on Friday. With that time delta showing the pace of a lot of guys in this division, and those medium tyres really starting to do some serious work, as Luke's actually gone around and done a second flying lap on the softs, I believe. And it does a 26.6 as new reserve driver and first Frenchman in PC1 for at least this season, possibly last season as well. Matteo Michelon does go fastest with a 26.5 on the soft tyres. That is an exceptionally quick lap. Would have been, even now without the track rubbered in, I believe that would have put him top 4 in PC2 yesterday. So more time to come as the track rubbers in and he gets his iron a little bit better. But that is an excellent lap. Currently pole by 1/10.5, but we will see a lot of people improving. There's still half the grid here yet to set times. Casper in the second Red Bull is on a flying lap, as is Freddie has unfortunately invalidated his, so won't be setting a time in the other Red Bull. But we'll see what Casper can do here. Quill's also on a lap after his PC decided to crash, which is not ideal for the lobby host. But he is behind Casper on track, so we'll see what he can put together here, the Red Bull driver, as he comes round turn 11, gets a little bit on the outside curb, which is going to cost him some traction and some time coming through turn 12. But manages to keep it flat through there. It says a purple sector 2, which is probably lying because that's what the game does. However, it is a 105.2, which is a very good split for sector 2. So we will probably be looking in the 26s here for this lap, as he flicks it through turn 14 and 15. And DRS open now to the line. It's going to be a 26.7, currently P5 for the Red Bull driver. And Quill just coming up to this last corner here as well. Keeps it in 5th gear, which is just to get the traction down with those medium tyres, I imagine. Unusual to keep it that high. And P12 for now. But there's definitely more to come. I'd imagine there's probably a small mistake in there. And if that was on soft tyres, that would be around a 27.0, 26.9. So you'd be looking lower reaches of the top 10 with a lap of that pace. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Lucas just coming up to finish a lap here on the medium tyres. 106.0 for that sector 2 split, so he's going to be a little bit off, but it is medium tyres, so it's not going to be that impactful. It's a 27.6, so that's actually pretty decent so far. Ian's currently our fastest man on the mediums of the 27.0, and Casper's binned it, unfortunately. Casper's actually crashed out on the exit of turn 10. Ooh, that's a big one as well. He's not going to be too happy with that. That's his qualifying over. And he's currently in P5, so he had a chance for a very good qualifying run, but unfortunately not going to be able to improve, and I think we will see him slide down probably into that final, into the bottom 10 positions, which will give him a free choice of tyres, and the alternate strategy is pretty good around Bahrain, although it's an easy one-stop either way. So we'll jump aboard with Tuka, who's just started his lap, just come through turns 1, 2 and 3. Current championship leader, as he flicks it through turn 4, gets a little bit squirrely coming off that heightened curve, but he's already 2 tenths up but his previous lap was a 28.2, which isn't really a competitive time, especially not something that Tuka will be happy with. So there must be a mistake somewhere on that lap where he's going to find a chunk of time. As he just drops it into turn 10, just gets away with not quite locking up that front left, but he definitely slowed the rotation significantly, right on the limit of where the ABS definitely would have kicked in were we allowed it in this tier. As he flicks it through turn 11, gets decently over that inside curb, manages to keep it off the outside to not unsettle the car. Doesn't swing quite as wide on the entry to 12 as a lot of drivers do, but keeps it away from the curb, keeps it alive. It's a 105.2 for the Sector 2 split. He's a second up on his lap. I think there's probably going to be time here in this final sector as well, probably for Tuka. I would definitely expect him in the 26s. As he flicks it through here, turn 14, turn 15 isn't a corner, as Marek Zanamorovsky in front of him goes fastest with a 26.2. Where does Tuka go? Currently P5, a 26.7. Just ahead of the retired Kasper Niemczyk. And Mateusz Gola with a 26.3, so he improves as well. And Iron's just starting his flying lap here, so he'll be looking to push up the grid. Currently P2 in the championship, he's going to want to get as close to Tuka as humanly possible, ideally in front of him, as his teammate Jonathan Foss with a 26.0. Wow, that's a excellent lap. AlphaTauri will possibly be looking to try and get a front row lockout here. And we will almost definitely see some drivers dipping into the 25s here come the end of qualifying when the track is nice and rubbered in and very grippy. I wouldn't expect weather's going to play a part here. We are, of course, in a desert. And I think the only inclement weather that real F1 has ever had, even coming here almost 20 years now back to Bahrain, is a sandstorm we had in a practice session once. So I can't imagine that's going to be programmed in by the game. I wouldn't bank on it anyway from Codemasters. As Iron now just coming around turn 11. He's found quite a lot of traffic though, unfortunately, so he's going to want to hopefully get that Alfa Romeo out of the way. That's Mateusz Gola. He's definitely held him up there, unfortunately. And I think Iron's gone, bit of argy-bargy, a bit of unhappiness there, but I can't say I really blame Iron for that. He wasn't a very good lap, and he's essentially just lost it due to Mateusz Gola not getting out of his way in qualifying, which is very unfortunate. You need to be aware of the guys around you that are on laps, guys. You need to pay attention. As we see Wojciech Krux just coming up to the line in the second Aston Martin had an exceptional result last week, as he does a 27.4 and Jonathan Foss does a second flying lap on that set of softs and goes even faster with a 25.8. I wonder how much of a slipstream there he got from Wojciech as they were coming through the final two pretty decently long straights. Managed to get away with not losing too much time in the twisty little bit, and actually improves his lead at the top. He's now topped by almost 4 tenths as George Parr goes faster and puts it P7 for Haas. And who's that Ferrari? Is that Matteo? It is Matteo, who went slightly faster with a 26.4. But Jonathan's shown that you can do 2 flying laps on these soft tyres, so we might see more drivers trying that just on this second run here in quali. Matteo does appear though to have backed out. He's turned his ERS off, as we see some of the other drivers starting to get out of the way a little bit. Nathan's on an out lap, one of only 2 drivers to have not set a time yet, so he'll be looking to move up the grid. This is Nathan's typical thing. He effectively ignores the first 10 minutes of qualifying and then comes out and puts in a couple of blistering laps at the end. Allows him to keep an extra couple of sets of brand new tyres. The time's generally not too representative at the start, but it does catch him out when we get weather that appears midway through qualifying. Yeah, Wojciech there just pitting. I think Johnny's run out of fuel most likely, so we don't really have anybody on a flyer at the moment. Yeah, Mateo's backed out of his. Although Quill's 1.6 seconds, he's just gone faster with a 26.4, so that puts the Williams driver up into P5, jumps out basically everyone on the grid and goes ahead of the McLaren duo of Padriga and Fraser, who are now 6th and 7th. Tuka's in that lower reach of the top 10 though, so he's going to be wanting to move up, and Iron, due to that lap getting compromised by Mateusz Gola, unfortunately is currently in P15. Nathan's actually come back in the pits, so I wonder if he made a mistake at that final corner potentially, and had to bail out of his lap. So I think the only person currently on a lap right now, yeah, Fraser's on an out lap. The only person currently on a lap is Williams driver Paolo Bellini, who's just coming down to turn 4 now with that DRS open. He began the season actually in PC3, and after dominating the first 3 or 4 races was immediately skipped up to PC1, where he's had some decent results, and he sets a purple Sector 1, a 10th and a half up on his current 26.8. But he's going to have to find a full second if he wants to put it on pole. But if he finds about 4 tenths, that puts him 4th, which shows just how close the grid is around Bahrain. It seems to be the track most people practice the most. Anybody who starts career mode obviously starts with a race here. And it tends to be the place people begin their time trials when a new game comes out. So you expect a lot of people to have done laps here. And it kind of shows. Everyone sort of knows what they're doing. But it does open up people pushing slightly too hard in the races. Paolo does a 4.9 for the second sector split. And it says that's purple as well. So this could be a monster lap. We'll have to see how much time he loses to Johnny with not having a slipstream down these final 2 straights, which Johnny definitely had on his fastest lap, but this definitely could be a front row. He might jump Marek here as he comes to the line, opens DRS, and it's a 26.2. Just misses out on getting ahead of Marek by about 7/100ths of a second, but P3 for the Williams driver, who, like I say, started in PC3. Unfortunately, he's not going to have enough time to get back in and get new boots on, so it depends whether he's got enough fuel to go for possibly another run on that set of tyres. But Fraser has now got around to start his lap. The reserve driver in the McLaren manages to get past the AlphaTauri, who's just on an out lap, so not held up by the traffic, which is going to be good for him. Currently sat P8, but a couple of tenths is going to move him up the grid 3 or 4 places. Very tight here. You see second place going in a 26.2 and 11th a 26.7, so half a second deciding whether you're front row or alternate strategy. As Fraser comes around turn 12 now, it's on 5.0, so he's a couple of tenths up. Says that's purple as well, but I think we're taking that with a grain of salt. So Fraser streaks now down towards turn 14. Basically everybody's out. There's only, say, 2 drivers, I think, currently in the pits. As Fraser now manages to avoid all the traffic, goes that a little bit early and avoids everybody holding him up, and it's a 26.3. So just behind Matteo Scola, the Alfa Romeo driver, who's currently a 10th down on his lap. And let's see who's next across the line. It's going to be one of the Mercedes. Marek Znamierovski's just starting his laps, though, as is Mateusz Jelenek. So we'll go to Patrick, who's on his out lap as well. And that would be a Williams. That would be Paolo coming back into the pits, I imagine. Yeah. So Paolo doesn't have the fuel to go for another flying lap, unfortunately. So next to the line, and this will be everyone's final lap from this point, is Matteo Scola. And that's going to be a 26.2. Goes a little bit faster and manages to pip Marek for that spot on the front row by just 0.003 of a second. So Ryan just comes around to start his lap. Hopefully he won't get held up by Matthias this time, as he is behind him on track again. And then the Ferrari of, that will have been Matteo, just starting his lap, I think. So it's Jacob Mikkelsen, who was 0.3 up at that second sector split and manages to jump himself up into P8. Won his first race of the season at Spa last week, dominated in the changeable conditions despite a red flag. Luke Mills jumps up to P10, which is probably the worst place to start. And behind him, Freddie's just starting a lap. So he'll be looking to actually put in a competitive time, as will Nathan behind him. And George with a 26.6 as the flag falls. So whoever gets to the line now, that's going to end their qualifying. Johnny doesn't improve, sticks with his 25.8, but he is currently fastest. And Mateusz Jelenek does his first flying lap, manages to get a time on the board, but it's only good enough for 13th. Unfortunately. So that will be Mercedes starting outside the top 10, but he is going to be on that alternate strategy. Padraig chooses to pit. Fraser probably should have chosen to pit, but he's 34 seconds down, so I imagine he ran out of fuel there. So now we've got Tuka, who the flag has fallen for, unfortunately, so it will be his teammate Warshi just coming to the line. Gets a little bit squirrely out of that last corner, and it's a 28.1, so not an improvement, just stays in 15th position. Next to the line is Matteo, who's 0.2 up and puts it P2 with a 26.1. So a good lap from our reserve. His first time racing here in ERO. As now Iron comes to the line, and he's gonna bail his lap. So Iron's gonna be starting 17th. He's gonna be taking that alternate strategy and trying to make it work. As Luke Mills managed to put in a lap time for 7th, so he did go again. Managed to improve a little bit out of being on the worst place on the grid, being in P10. So he won't have to suffer through that, as Nathan's gone up to P6. And a bit of a spin out of the final corner, unfortunately, from Quill, who was a little bit down on his split out of Sector 2, but may have been hoping to improve. And he's going to come into the pits, and that will conclude qualifying. So, AlphaTauri driver Jonathan Foss takes a pole position by a big margin, especially around a track like Bahrain, where it is usually extremely close. He does manage to take pole by almost 3/10 of a second with a 25.8. That's a mega lap from Johnny. New reserve Matteo Michelon, our French driver that we have this season, is P2 for Ferrari. Matej Scola and Marek Znamorowski, the Polish pairing, will fill out the second row of the grid for Alfa Romeo and Mercedes, with Paolo Bellini and Nathan Powers just 2 thousandths separating them on that third row. Fraser Robertson for McLaren and the second Alpine of Luke Mills make a British row 4, with Quill Pavlakovic and Jacob Mickelson rounding out that top 10. All of our top 10 are forced onto those soft tyres that they have done qualifying with. 11th place to Padraig Dougal, 12th for George Parr, 13th for championship leader Tuka Rakola, so he's going to be having to fight his way through, and the second Mercedes of Matej Jelinek in 14th. We've got an all Red Bull row 8, which doesn't happen in real life very often, with Kasper Niemczyk and Freddie Washi is the second Aston Martin in 17th, with Kenny in the second Alfa Romeo. And the final row of the grid for championship second place, usually fighting for wins, for Ian Bilbas and Lucas Dirksen, who did actually say he was going to sack off Gwali just to take the alternate strategy, because he wasn't sure how high in that top 10 he would get. But, well, that was qualifying. So a couple of instances of some blocking, people losing lap times to a lack of paying attention, a lack of situational awareness, which does seem to be a bit of an issue now and then. But Bahrain isn't really a track where you would expect that to be a major issue. So it's a little unfortunate that we have had a lap ruined due to that, as we are just getting people to sort out their race strategies and their setups and things. I've actually been messaged by the boss, so I'll just have to close it 1 second. Boss yelling at me for some reason. Anyway. So, drivers pull away now, so we'll be looking towards this formation lap. They'll be trying to warm their tyres up. Of course, this top 10 are forced onto the soft tyres. And the only driver out of the bottom 10 choosing the softs is Matej Jelinek in that second Mercedes. So Mercedes going with a potential double stack. Around about lap 9 or 10 when they have to get off these soft tyres. Everybody else back there picking the medium tyres. It's quite an easy, quite a simple one-stop here. The tyres, the medium tyres can do somewhere in the region of 22 to 24 laps without losing all that much time. They are very durable around here. But the softs do have that massive pace advantage, although they only last around about 10 laps. The game says that predicted strategy is a 2-stop, but the game lies and is terrible. So we won't listen to Jeff, as is usually the best way to do. Unfortunately, as a spectator, I don't get told what the weather's going to do, although I think rain is very unlikely. Well, possible, but I think very unlikely to happen. So we are used to an AlphaTauri on pole, but it is Johnny and not Iron. Johnny has been up around there fighting pretty high up, but usually Iron just pips him in quali, but unfortunately his teammate going to be starting in P19. But the top 7 are all different teams, so we won't be seeing too much in the way of team play unless the Alpines decide to get a bit interesting if they both get some good starts and can start pushing a little further up towards the top of the grid. Oh, and that's unfortunate. Nathan's tyre is going to be nice and chilled as he's forced to sit on the grid, disqualified. Interesting, nobody else got disqualified for what was obviously contact. So the game deciding Nathan's entirely to blame, as the drivers now are just pulling up to the grid. This front four have streaked away a little bit around those last couple of corners. But they shouldn't be sitting all that long, hopefully. As we search for a decent camera angle. Although we might not be able to get one. Unfortunately, the camera angles do tend to be a little spoopy here at Bahrain off the start. But everyone pulls into position now. A little bit of porpoising on the grid, as we expect. And lights are now coming on. That's 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go. And that's a great start for Johnny. But Matteo gets a little bit bogged down in P2. And there's contact as people trying to move around, find a little bit of space. I think it was Paolo with one of the Alpines. But Johnny's going to get through into P1. All fine and dandy. Matteo manages to hold P2 from Matteo Scola. And everyone seemingly has got through there all fine and happy. But we're going to have 3 or 4 wide. A little further back, and there's a big crash at the back. And that's going to be Kenny and Lucas making contact, unfortunately, in the Haas and the Alfa Romeo. But Johnny's streaking away, managing to build a gap of 7 tenths already from the Ferrari of Matteo Michelin, our reserve driver. And Mateusz Jelinek has made up a place over Tuka Rakola on those soft tyres, but they're going to be going side by side through turn 8. And Irons up onto the back of Tuka. So we could see a little bit of a championship fight here outside of the points, as Patrick managed to get down the inside of Freddie. Lead medium runners into the hairpin of turn 10. And Tuka gets Mateusz Jelinek back to push the soft runner down a little bit further. But Jonathan at the front for AlphaTauri, almost a second lead already on this first lap. And he's not really using Barry in order to do it. He's not deploying a lot to try and break slipstream. He's actually only about 6% of a disadvantage to Matteo, who is likely to be coming under pressure from last season's champion, Matteo Scola, who's just 3 tenths back, right in the back of him. And we might see a double slipstream here for Marek Znamorowski, the Mercedes driver in P4. Looks like Mateus is going to go for a move here on the reserve driver. But he is going to get down the inside into turn 1. No DRS, of course, until next lap. And we've got Tuka and Iron now fighting further back. So that could get a little spicy, but we'll stay with the fight in the podium positions and see what happens here as Mateus goes defensive into turn 4. And Mateo's going to try and come around the outside, but Mateus just brakes later, manages to hold him off, but this is going to be a great cutback possibly for the Ferrari driver. And he's going to get down the inside. Oh, Mateus doesn't leave him space, and Mateus spun. And he's around, and that's going to drop him all the way down the field, but he might have got away with not getting damaged there. But unfortunate for our reserve driver, started on the front row, but he's now going to be last of the guys that haven't pit, has George Parr in the house managed to just jump past. Lucas Dirksen and Kenny Sukibuka have pit at the back of the field, and they both got hards in, so they'll be looking to go to the end. But that fight between the Ferrari and Alfa Romeo behind has allowed Jonathan Foss to build a 1.6 second advantage at the front. And Kaspin Yemsik has managed to get in between the championship protagonists of Arjen and Tuka. All on medium tyres. They're going to be wanting to stay close with each other if they can. And we've got a spinner through turn 12. Turn 12 claims its first victim, and that's Jacob Mikkelsen. So a bad day for Ferrari, as they're now running 17th and 18th. And I think Jacob's probably got damage from that. I do think I saw him tap the wall, but it might not be enough damage that he feels he's forced to pit and put himself into a 2-stop. Jonathan sets a fastest lap as he's building his lead now out at the front. And we are now going to get DRS enabled for this run down to turn 4. So the first person who's going to have it is Marek Znamorowski in the Mercedes. He's going to get a run at Mateusz Gola. Two of the protagonists from last season both dropped a little bit down the field this year with some of the new talent coming into PC1. But they are both still definitely capable of fighting for race victories. And Luke Mills in the Alpine actually all the way up to P4 currently. But he is going to be coming under a bit of pressure from the McLaren of Fraser Robertson behind. But these two have managed to build a little bit of gap to... Oh, Paolo's actually had a moment through turn 7 and he spun and dropped pretty much all the way to back of the field. And I think George Parr's just spun out of sympathy with him. So unfortunately we're going to have quite a few guys now kind of off the back of the field. And That's going to promote the second Alpine of Nathan to P6, but he's going to be coming under pressure from Freddie here, and Freddie's on those medium tyres. They're starting to come up to the working temperature range, and he gets down the inside of Nathan, up into P6, just before the safety car gets called. As we've got a Haas stranded on track. That's George Parr just out of turn 8. Unfortunately, the game's removed his car before I could witness what had happened, but that's a big crash, unfortunately. And that's going to see the Haas be our first DNF of the race. Now this is going to bail Jacob, Lucas and Kenny out a little bit, as it's going to allow them to get onto the back. And Freddie actually picks up the first 3-second time penalty for corner cutting under safety car. Let's see if anyone... Oh, it was just virtual. My apologies. Just a virtual safety car, so it's not going to bunch the field up, but we get a drive-through penalty for Matteo Michelin, which is just going to send his day from bad to worse, unfortunately. Currently running now in 16th position, as Marek has managed to get the jump on that safety car restart and overtake Mateus. Of course, with DRS enabled, if the virtual safety car ends in a DRS zone, you can immediately activate that rear wing. As Fraser manages to take a line around the outside of turn 4 and overtake Luke and get into P4. He's going to need to get a little bit of a wriggle on those. He's almost outside the DRS range of Mateus and Marek ahead. And he's going to need that rear wing open to defend from Luke. Currently now up in P6 with that first 3-second time penalty of the day is Freddie in the Red Bull. And he's going to be looking to push on now with these medium tyres. The softs are probably better for around 7 laps, such is the pace differential between the tyre compounds when they are both fresh. So he can sort of sit and hang here. He's built a bit of a gap out from Nathan. So probably got a better jump off that safety car restart, or Nathan might be carrying a little bit of damage because he's coming under quite a lot of pressure here from Quill and Mateus behind. And Tuco has made it up into P10 as we've got a Red Bull going wide off track of Casper behind them, but manages to keep the position, and it might not have been a warning with how far off track he went. As Marek now with the fastest lap of the race with a 30.1, so he's going to be looking to try and close up that 3-second lead now that Johnny's got. As we're going to see possibly 3 or 4 wide here going into turn 1. And we've got Nathan's going to get swallowed up by Quill and Mateus gets both. It's down the inside, but I'm not sure who's going to get the DRS here. Ooh, as we've got a bit of contact on the exit of 3, and Quill almost loses the car and loses a lot of momentum in the process. And he was the guy that didn't get DRS, which is going to allow Nathan to come back up to P8, but Tuca's going to make a great move and dive down the inside. Nathan braked too late, and that's going to allow Quill back up into P9 as well, as Tuca gets a big squirrel through the middle of 7 and 8. But he's managed to get up into P8 now. What he needs to do is try and get on the back of Freddie, our lead medium runner, and for that he needs to clear Mateus. Although, like I say, these soft tyres are still going to have that little bit of an advantage. So if Mateus can possibly pull him closer to the Red Bull driver, it's going to help Tuco, as Iron's kind of stuck in a bit of traffic here, currently down in P11 and out of the DRS range of the cars in front, who are going 3 wide here into turn 11. That's not the smartest thing they've ever done. As Patrick and Washi going side by side through 11. Patrick thinks better of that and just backs out, allows Washi the place. Side by side through 12 tends to end with somebody in a wall. Marek's managed to close on Johnny a little bit at the front, just 2.6 seconds down the lead. But he's going to be dragging Mateus and Fraser along with him as they're both sat in the DRS. Luke's probably made a mistake somewhere and has dropped off the back of this pack, as Freddie's now coming up behind him at some serious pace with a new fastest lap of a 29.8. And Freddie's going to look for a move, but thinks better of it going into turn 1. And we've got a pit stop from Padraig, so he's getting off those medium tyres. He must have damage to be pitting this early on mediums. Yep, he's getting a new front wing and some hards, so those boots are going to take him to the end. As Freddie's managed to overtake Luke into turn 4, puts him up into 5th place on those medium tyres. And Mateus not really gaining though. He's now 3.6 seconds behind Luke in front of him. And well, this isn't going to be helping Tuca all that much. He's got quite a gap he's going to need to gain up into this sort of second group that's currently Freddie and Luke. Although with the time Luke lost on the last lap, it's possible he made an error, or his tyres might be overheating. If they're overheating, that could drag him back into the clutches of the pack behind, which is now starting to grow. As we've got Mateus, Tuca, Quill, Nathan, Arjen, Casper, and Washi all in the DRS train, so all the way from 7th to 13th. All going to be in a nice little cluster. They're all going to have that rear wing flap opening up, apart from Mateus at the front. And the guys behind are going to be possibly looking to make a move. Mateus having to spend quite a lot of battery here to fend off Tuca, as the medium tyres are going to start to cross over into being the faster compound. And Fraser pits from P4, so we've got a soft runner in. The McLaren in the pit, so he's going to be looking to undercut possibly the guys ahead of him. He was sort of stuck in a DRS train, but 22 laps on the mediums, that's not too bad. The rears are going to be a little bit shouty by the end of the race. They're not going to enjoy it, but they're going to work. And we've also got Paolo in the Williams coming in as well, as we go back now to this fight for what is now 6th place after the McLaren pits. We see Mateus managing to hold position, but we've got a little bit of a fight behind. Arjen trying to go around the outside into turn 4 on Nathan. Those soft tyres starting to go off, and Arjen manages to make the place. He doesn't want to let Tuca run away, so he's going to hope to push through, possibly overtake Quill as soon as possible, who's also on those soft tyres. Might start getting some slightly squirrely traction zones, and then get right onto the back of his championship rival. So Marek's not really closing in on Johnny at the front though. This gap from the AlphaTauri driver back to the Mercedes still around about 3 seconds. But Mateus Gola's sticking with him. It'll be interesting to sort of witness the gap for Fraser, see if that's going to be coming down. He's currently 26.6 seconds off the lead. He was right with these guys. It's about 24 seconds for a pit stop. So he might be about to jump these two if they choose to pit this lap, and I think he's definitely going to jump them if they don't, as the fresh mediums are going to be quicker than the softs at this point, and they do all choose to stay out for another lap. Freddie's coming up behind them though at a decent rate. He's now just 2 seconds off the back, and now Casper's managed to overtake Nathan coming out of the final corner, but that's still going to give him the DRS. It's going to be Nathan that's going to be a little bit exposed here, as Casper and Washi with DRS going side by side into turn 1. And Washi's going to try it around the outside. If he can hold it, that'll give him the inside for 2. But Casper just doesn't leave him space, just forces him off track. And that's going to be a 3-second time for Washi, but I imagine that's going to be going to the stewards. I definitely don't think there was space left there on the outside, as Casper tries to come back through and does so, as Washi just slides a little bit off track. Nathan still getting a little interested here, but those soft tyres not going to be the fastest way to get around at the moment. A gap of 4 seconds has opened up in front of Luke at the front. These top 4, with the 3 soft runners at the front, Johnny just cruising around basically at the moment. He's got more battery than Marek behind him as well, and still keeping that gap at around about 3 seconds. A good bit of insulation in case he does get a penalty, like we've already seen Freddie and Washi get. Although I imagine Washi's going to challenge his. I didn't see any of Freddie's warnings to see whether he could challenge it to the stewards as well. But we are now coming up to the end of lap 8, so there's going to be another 21 laps to go. And still Johnny stays out, as do Marek and Mateus. So it was a very early stop from Fraser. Everybody else happy to stay out for another 2 or 3 laps at least. But Freddie's closing in, another 3 or 4 tenths taken out of them that lap. And Luke's in. So the Alpine driver pits from 5th place, and that's going to promote Tuca up to 5th. But he's managed to jump Mateusz Jelinek, but Mateusz Jelinek, the Mercedes driver, isn't going to let this go. And we've got another retirement, and that's going to be, I think that Jacob and Kenny crashed into each other. Or have they just, no, I think they've just both been at the same time. So that's going to be a safety car. I imagine everybody in here, especially everybody on the soft tyres. Yeah, Matteo Michelon, first to react, first to be coming past the pit lane, manages to dive in. Paolo Blini did only pit the lap prior for those medium tyres, so he's going to happily stay out. And Patrick is going to stay out on his hards as well. Value in track position over the slightly fresher rubber. But I think Lucas might pit here, a 5-lap old hard, so I think he might go for mediums. He's currently last anyway, nothing to lose. No, chooses to go around again, so that's interesting. This is going to erode that lead that Johnny had though, but it is going to allow him to come in, get off those soft tyres, put some mediums on, go to the end of the race. Everybody else is kind of going to have to do the same. I'm interested to see what Freddie and Tuca do. Do they stay on the mediums, gamble on another safety car in about 10 laps? Which would probably be the gamble to make if you really want to win this race, or do they come in, put the hards on, play it safe, and see what they can do in the last 4 or 5 laps when the mediums begin to go off a little bit? But a speeding under safety car drive-through penalty for Paolo. That's going to make his day go from bad to worse. Currently 14th in the Williams, so that's going to drop him pretty much at the back of the field. He's going to have to serve that within a couple of laps of the safety car coming in. Yeah, Freddie stays out, so the Red Bull driver stays out, choosing not to pit. Tuka is coming in, though, off the mediums, so Freddie's going to have to pit at some point, but he is going to lead us away off this safety car, as pretty much everybody else has come in. Casper gets a 5-second time penalty for a severe collision with Arjen. So I think that's probably missing his braking point coming into the pit lane. And that's going to be unfortunate for him at the end of the race. He's going to have to come in and serve that again. But he has just put the soft tyres on, so maybe he's going to come around and pit again and put mediums on. Dropping pretty much to the back of the field, but will allow him to go to the end of the race. As more or less everybody else has done. Yeah, Luke's coming in on the soft, so he's going to be putting mediums on here. So while he did pit a lap previous, this allows him to serve his 5-second speeding in the pit lane penalty, and allows him to get on tyres that will take him to the end of the race while still completing the 2 compound rule requirement. Oh, it's been a bit of a hectic first 10 laps, really. Currently got 3 DNFs for Jacob, Kenny and George, so that is a bit unfortunate. And despite a pretty strong qualifying and start of race from Ferrari, it's really not going too well for them today. Seems to be just Ferrari in general for the last 10 or 12 years, really. It's not really gone ideally for them in real F1, and they're projecting that now on ERO. As you've got a bit of argy-bargy swapping about with Casper and Arjen. Come on, guys, run the safety car, knock it off. Whoever's playing stupid games. Second incident with Arjen today. I'm not sure whether either were his fault, but I imagine both will end up with the stewards. So while we're under safety car, I'll just dip out a second, as I've been shouted at by the boss. Oh, I haven't. Ignore boss. I try to. So I think it's likely the safety car is going to be coming in next lap. Just a couple of guys to catch up onto the back. So let's take a look at some of the penalties we've currently got. Yeah, quite a lot of collisions there you see on lap 1. So Freddie, yeah, got all of his warnings in one go, unfortunately. Johnny currently doesn't have any. Marek's got 2 though, so he's going to have to be a little bit cautious for the rest of the race. Mateus doesn't have any. Tuka doesn't have any. Matej Jelnek got 2 on the first lap, but one of those could be collisions. Casper has a penalty for warnings and a 5-second, which he will probably go back in the pits and serve, I would imagine, under this safety car. 3 warnings for Arjen, but no penalty, so at least one of those is for contact. But also he's gone mediums, so he hasn't put the softs on yet. So he's going to have to pit for another time at some point during this race, so he hasn't really gambled as I was expecting he might do. Just 1 warning for Quill. Few warnings for Washi. So some of the top 10 are going to have to play it calm and safe. Either have a penalty or have a couple of warnings, but there's a fair few drivers around with no warnings whatsoever. Tukabot keeping it clean, as you would expect from our championship leader. He's going to have to try and make those hards work. I expect him to come under quite a lot of pressure from the guys behind for these first 2 or 3 laps off this safety car restart. He's going to be hoping to stick with Mateus and Marek and Johnny at least in front of him. And possibly as they move through and try and clear Freddie on those worn medium tyres. Bit of a gamble from Freddie, bit of a gamble from Arjen as well, going medium. So these 2 at least are going to have to make another stop, as is Casper, because those softs ain't getting to the end from here. So there's at least 3 guys that are going to have to make a stop, all banking on a further safety car, as yeah, the safety car is coming in this lap. And a 5-second penalty for Paolo for a severe collision with Washi under safety car. You just need to leave more space, guys. As we'll ride on board with Johnny and see how he does off this restart. If he can get a good jump here and get clear of Freddie before turn 1, or at least before turn 4, it might allow him to build a little bit of a gap as Marek and Mateus try and negotiate the Red Bull driver with his worn medium tyres. Be interesting to see what kind of pace Freddie's managed to keep in those boots, as he's actually gone before the last corner, which on worn tyres I think is going to give Johnny this advantage definitely. And we've actually got a DNF. Patrick in the McLaren has binned it on that safety car restart, so I think he's just got on the loud pedal a little bit too hard coming up to that last corner. whilst these guys drive with no traction control. So easy to do, and a bit of a lock-up from Freddie as everyone plows into turn 1. But he's going to keep the position for now, as he gets a pretty good exit from 2 and 3. And he's not really even deploying any of his battery, but just managing to stay ahead of Jonathan for now. But not really building a gap either, as Marek in P3 gets a 3-second time penalty for running wide at turn 4. That's unfortunate for him. And Tuka's still in 5th. He's managing to do pretty well on those hards. He's not been swamped yet. But I imagine the second Mercedes of Mateusz Jelinek, they've been kind of fighting all race. He's going to be coming at him. If he can hold off Kasper Niemczyk behind in that Red Bull. He's on those soft tyres. He needs to get a move on. He needs to make up places and time for when he has to pit again. Still Freddie leads, 3/10 the gap back to Jonathan as they sweep around turn 12 now. A couple of drivers getting very twitchy through there, but nobody around or in a wall this time, so everyone negotiates the corner pretty well. And could see a move here from Kasper, almost pushing Mateusz down this straight, and he brakes later on those soft tyres. You can do that, and he leaves just enough space on the exit of 14. And they're going to be side by side down the straight. So let's see who's running less downforce. Looks like Kasper is, as he manages to get ahead, even though he's not deploying anymore, and Mateusz is. Mateusz thinks better of a bit of a lunge into turn 1 and just slots in behind. Cannot realistically fight those brand new soft tyres on the new mediums. As Jonathan's managed to get Freddie at the front. So Johnny's going to be looking to pull a bit of a gap here, get away from the worn tyres of the Red Bull, and hopefully build a bit of breathing room to Marek and Mateusz and Tuka. All those 3 drivers currently 3rd, 4th and 5th are going to the end. Mateusz and Tuka with no penalties, so they'll be hoping Marek doesn't hold them up. He can stay in front if he's quick enough, and we've got another spinner and a yellow flag, and that's going to be Paolo in the Williams. Unfortunately going around, dropping him down to 14th position. As he's going to be running pretty low at the back now. And just Lucas behind on those hard tyres that he put on lap 2 after damage. I'm very surprised he didn't pit under safety car to put some mediums on to get to the end of the race. He possibly didn't have a fresh set, but a quali 1 set would have been perfectly fine, I think, for sort of 16 laps that there was remaining. As Tuka's almost getting dropped out of DRS, he's going to need to get a move on. He's deploying some battery to try and get in there, but I don't think he's going to make it. Unless he can get a really good drive out of this last corner, which on the hard tyres isn't the easiest thing. He's going to be coming under pressure here from Kasper. As DRS enabled, and Johnny does get that fastest lap and a half-second lead over Freddie at the front. As Kasper's going to be coming past Tuka. 2 steps softer tyres. I don't think Tuka's going to let this go without a fight. He was behind at detection, so he's going to get DRS. Might have a chance for a run into 4. As he opens that rear wing flap. But I don't think he's going to be close enough. Kasper just gets a better drive with those soft tyres. Tuka might have to sit here now. But, well, Kasper's going to have to stop again. And might actually help Tuka here, because he's going to be able to get into that DRS. But there isn't really much further he can go. As Nathan Powers pits for Alpine. Puts on soft tyres and drops them to the back. Could be trying to get those to the end, but he's going to require a little bit of a tyre management masterclass to do 15 racing laps around Bahrain on a set of soft tyres. Although, because he skips that first 10 minutes of quali, they should be brand new. Freddie's actually managing to hang with Johnny at the front pretty well. Still just that 5/10 gap. But those tyres are going to start going off soon, and he's going to have to pit. Not too far away. And there's just 13 seconds back from him to 13th place Lucas Dirksen, so it's going to drop him all the way down the field when he eventually has to pit. He's effectively gambling on another safety car here. But it doesn't give him, it gives him an advantage in terms of the few places of track position he made, but he was running in about 5th place before the safety car anyway. So he would still have been there, not lost too much had he come in and pit and put the hards on. Unless he's just not confident in those hard tyres at all. And he closes up quite a lot under DRS as well, just 3/10 the gap, and that's going to defend him from Marek quite well. Having that DRS, Marek almost out of the 1 second, and Mateusz Gola just hanging on as well. And yeah, Kasper has managed to get into this 1 second, but Iron's actually managed to overtake Tuka. Where the hell did Iron come from? That's possibly very important for this championship fight. Iron and Tuka are both going to be going to the end here, and Iron's managed to get past. Those hard tyres of Tuka's are not going to be faster before the last 4 or 5 laps of the race, but Iron does have to pit. He's done medium. He needs to put the softs or the hards on at some point in this race. So he's going to drop a long way down the field. Tuka, I think, possibly aware of that, just not wanting to fight too hard and lose time overall, but he's already been dropped out of Iron's DRS. Just about managed to stick in for the entrance to 10 though, which is going to allow him to close up about 3/10 down that back straight. And if he can hold on to Iron's coattails here for these last couple of corners of the lap, he'll get DRS down that main straight, which should put him in DRS range for the run to turn 4. So it all kind of compounds itself around here, which is pretty good. As Quill's pulling up onto the back of Mateus, and Johnny just had to stretch his legs a little bit. Gap out to about 7/10 to Freddie. And Marek's starting to come a little bit closer as well, just half a second behind the Red Bull now. A bit more battery usage from Johnny, which probably explains some of that gap. But Freddie seems to be running quite a low downforce setup and closes up significantly with the DRS. Closed up almost half a second just down the main straight. Then loses almost all of it going through turn 1, 2 and 3 on those warm medium tyres. Interesting to see when he actually does choose to come in. I would imagine around lap 18 or 19. Or he might try and hang this out as long as possible and gamble on that safety car. A lot of guys still running very close together on track. So that does increase the chance for a safety car, as Nathan does do a fastest lap as expected, with a 28.5 on those brand new soft tyres. But they might be pushing a little bit too hard to get them to the end. As Tuka's managed to get right on the back of Iron. Iron lost a little bit of time. And in front of them, Casper possibly going to look at a move on Mateus Gola. He's got those soft tyres. He's going to get better exits out of corners for the next lap or so before the crossover between softs and mediums. And he has to pit. So he's going to be looking to make up as many places as possible. Pulls very close on the exit of 12 and into 13. To the point he almost ran into the back of the Alfa Romeo, but manages to keep his car all intact. Doesn't lose a front wing like I managed to do 3 times yesterday, because I'm special like that. As he's going to pull up down this pit straight now, of course, Mateus also has the DRS, so he's not going to be getting that advantage, but he did seem to be running a pretty slippery setup when he was racing Mateusz Jelinek earlier. But that's not going to be close enough, and he's going to have to sit there currently in 5th place. As Matteo Michelin in the Ferrari, making his way back through, manages to overtake the McLaren of Fraser and up into that final points paying position. But he's going to have to close in on Quill a little bit to get that DRS to not be exposed. Hopefully join the back of this train headed up by Iron. He's kind of bottlenecking everyone a little bit here. Yeah, 2.5 seconds up to the guys in front. And while you'd expect him to lose some time to Casper, you probably wouldn't expect him to lose the time to Mateus and Marek as well. This top 5 all together, all within a DRS train. But Freddie and Casper are going to have to pit, so we are kind of looking at a podium here with Johnny, Marek and Mateus, unless somebody can get on the back of them. And Marek's penalty might pay quite a lot to that, as he's only just outside that penalty range of Iron and Tuka. And Tuka's tyres are definitely going to come good in the last few laps of the race and hopefully allow him to close in a little bit, maybe spice up this championship fight a little more. Though Iron managing to hold P6 for now. We'll be kind of just happy to take a couple of points out, and Casper's gone. Red Bull spun, but he's kept all his tyres attached. I'm not entirely sure how he's managed that. He's lost his front wing, so that's going to force him to pit, but he was only a couple of laps out from pitting anyway, so the time loss is going to be fairly minimal in terms of what it could have been. I'm very surprised that didn't DNF the car. Oh, but he's DNF'd it himself. He's kind of ruined his race there. And the AI's put him on hards, I think. Just to add insult to injury. So that's very unfortunate for the Red Bull driver. Chance for some very, very good points for Red Bull. Almost kind of thrown away out of the last corner. And Paolo's retired as well. Same place out of that last corner. And he's actually binned it. Yeah, so he's fully crashed that car. As Iron gets a 3-second time penalty. And Tuka manages to sneak past through turn 8. So that spices up the championship a little bit more. If Iron keeps with this 3-second time penalty and the guys behind don't get one, that's going to drop him a lot of places, as he's essentially at the head of a DRS train here. 4 or 5 guys behind are all going to be able to jump. 3-second penalty at this point drops Iron out of points from 6th, for a single 3-second penalty, which is a little excessive. And Washi gets a 3-second time penalty as well, so that brings us to 4 drivers now with these penalties for our track limits. And that one's not getting removed, even though I think the first one possibly could have been. And Nathan's managing to make a place up on those soft tyres. And now Freddie pits the Red Bull on lap 19, so he's going to be putting soft tyres on. He's going to be gaining as much time as he physically can. These tyres are going to be rapid, brand new softs against 8-lap-old mediums. Everybody else probably around about 25-30% wear on those medium tyres, with the amount of fuel they had on board when they put them on. So Freddie's got 11 laps to gain 22 seconds if he wants to win this race, plus his penalty. I think he's going to make up a decent chunk of places, as you've got Iron and Mateus fighting through turn 8, going side by side. Iron's managed to get past Tuka and essentially slingshot himself with the DRS past Mateus as well. A big fight going on here for 4th place, but 7 seconds back from this lead group. These 3 have kind of disappeared off into the distance. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes Freddie to get onto the back of this train. He's currently 12 seconds off the back of it, so even at 2 seconds a lap, which is quite a lot of time he'd need to gain, he's not going to be there until about 4 laps left to go, and it's going to be quite tricky for him to fight through all of this. But we start now to see a few more penalties racking up. Marek, Mateus and Iron, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, all with 3 seconds. And Mateus is going to make a move on the Mercedes driver of Marek and take P2 on the road. These 2 fighting fully for position now as Iron pits. So he's getting off those medium tyres, which he needed to do. And he's going to put softs on. That's going to promote Freddie up a place, so it saves him from one guy he would have had to overtake. Luke up to P9. Lucas up to P10 on those hard tyres, though. He hasn't stopped since his enforced stop on lap 3. And Freddie's already managed to get up on the back of it. Look how much more traction he has. You're going to try and go around the outside of 2 and 3. Manages to just squeeze the car in there, and he's going to have the DRS for the run down to 4. Doesn't really make sense here for Lucas to fight this. He's just going to lose too much time if he tries. And that's Freddie back up into the points. Let's see how fast he gets on the back of Luke. He's 3.5 seconds behind him at the moment, as we've got Nathan and Washi fighting at the back, looking for pride more than anything else, I think. Currently fighting over 13th position. Marek's made a mistake here, though, and he's almost been dropped out of the DRS range of Mateus at the front, who's in that DRS window of Johnny. But he's just going to be hanging on to the coattails of the top 2. Just going to be in that DRS range, which is going to allow him to pull closer. And this little train of 5 or 6 cars here, just dropping off a little bit, about 7 seconds back from Marek. In that final podium position. So Marek and Mateus' penalties might not matter too much, as Mateus in the second Mercedes running 3 and 4, so chance for some good points for them. You do tend to find everybody else's disasters, which is also my trick. Is going to come under attack from Tuka, but manages to hold the outside line. A 28-0 from Freddie, and he has taken 2 seconds out of Luke in that lap. From 3.5 to 1.2 the gap. And we're going to be 2 wide and 2 wide right behind into turn 4. Tuka takes that outside line. Mateus is possibly going to try and fight this, but this might be the point where Tuka's tyres start to become a little bit better than the mediums. The hards don't really wear too much around here, and there's not too much of a delta difference between them when they're fresh. Mateo's going to try a bit of a dive into turn 8. Mateus sees him coming, leaves a little space, and gets better traction on exit, so he's going to be able to keep that 5th place and 2nd place in this train, which is the point where you essentially have the impetus, as Tuka's not going to have the DRS, although he has managed to build a little bit of a gap with the fighting going on behind him of about 6 or 7 tenths. But he's also lost another second to Marek in 3rd place, as Fraser and Quill are going to go side by side through turn 12, and they keep it pretty clean, just leave just about enough space. A little bit of a squeeze there from Fraser and a little bit of contact on exit. And Fraser gets the move done forceful, but fair, I would say. And that's the McLaren reserve driver up into P7. So he's going to be looking at some decent points if everyone else around him gets a penalty to match his own. And Freddie's managed to overtake Luke. So he's absolutely steaming up here. But another 4.8 seconds he's got to gain to get onto the back of this train. And this train all have DRS. So he's essentially going to need to be lapping significantly faster than Tuka, because Tuka's going to be dragging everybody with him. As Ian gets a 27.8 on those soft tyres, having just pit himself. So he's 2.5 seconds back from Lucas. Freddie's 4.5 seconds back from the train. And the front three are now all within a second. So we could see quite a few battles beginning to really escalate in the last few laps. Which, well, it could cause a safety car and a full dive in for fresh softs and a bit of a chaos last few laps. We'll have to see if everyone manages to keep it clean. PC1 tends to be one of the more aggressive divisions in terms of overtaking maneuvers people go for. But so far I think pretty much everything has been above board. Nothing I'd say is really, really bad. A couple of slightly aggressive maneuvers, but nothing really excessive. As Ian's managed to overtake Lucas with DRS down that back straight, the AlphaTauri driver up to P11 now. But he's got another 7 seconds to gain on Luke. And, I mean, Freddie was taking maybe 2.5 seconds a lap out, but that's going to bring Ian to fighting for the points with only about 3 laps left. As Freddie's managed to take another couple of seconds out of this train, which Quill has just dropped off the back of, but just about managed to keep the DRS. But he might not get it here for turn 4, as Mateus and Tuka go in side by side. Into turn 1, Mateus manages to get the move done with the DRS. Promotes him back up into P4. A little bit of a DRS swapping going on here, and he's going to be the guy without DRS for this run down to turn 4. As Freddie gets another 3-second time penalty, so that's going to make it even harder for him to gain places. As even if he overtakes people, he's going to be dropping back at the end of the race. And Lucas finally gets off his hards and puts some softs on. She's going to drop him below Washi and Nathan and to the back of the running 14. But he's going to be pretty rapid on those soft tyres. And promotes Ian up into... oh, sorry, Ian had already overtaken him. Yeah, Ian in 11th place. They're currently not getting any points in this championship fight, which is going to allow Tuka to extend this lead unless something crazy happens. Currently winning P5. But front three happy to hold station for now, still within a second. But as we've been for most of the race, with Johnny leading Mateus and Marek in third, but Marek's possibly going to try a move here. Gets a much better exit out of turn 13 than Mateus, although I think he's going to be happy to sit back, take a look for DRS. I think Mateus has lost at DRS. I think he's made a mistake out of 12, and he's not going to get this rear wing opening down this main straight. Johnny opens up a gap to 1.2 thanks to that error. And while Mateus does have more battery than the guys around him, he can't be making mistakes like that as the tyres begin to wear, because he's just going to lose DRS and it's going to drop him further back. You kind of need it here. And Marek's going to have the DRS though, so he's managed to essentially slingshot himself back into that range of Johnny by overtaking Mateus. Speaking of Mateus in P4. Oh, we've got a spinner, and that's Fraser. How is he? Oh no, he is dead. I wondered how he kept the car alive, but no, he is dead. So that's very unfortunate for the McLaren reserve driver, and no safety car somehow. So being a little bit sedate from the race directors, as Mateo's going to try another little bit of a dive here into turn 8. He is going to get that inside line, but I think Mateus is probably going to keep his foot in here and get the inside into turn 10. Just force Mateo out a little wide. He can't turn in until Mateo says he can, and this is just helping Freddie out. He's now up into P6. He got on the back of this train, and then they all start fighting and dying, and it's going to allow him to make up some places on those soft tyres, forcing his way past Mateo, past the Ferrari reserve. Mateo's going to fight this back and stick down the inside into turn 12. Keep it all clean and above board, and Freddie gets a big drift, a full four-wheel drift there through turn 13. It's going to allow the Ferrari driver, Mateo, to keep the position for now. But we're going to get DRS down this straight and possibly a better exit with those soft tyres. They're still superior to mediums, as a big snap from Freddie gets on the loud pedal a little too hard. Manages to keep the car. But Mateo is possibly going to have a run at Mateus ahead of him. Mateus goes for a move on Tuka just as Mateo was looking for a move on Mateus. So this could get spicy in these last few laps. As Marek just half a second behind Johnny, but they're kind of dropping Matteo Scola a little bit. And they've definitely dropped these guys who are now 3 wide behind Tuca. And Mateus is going to go for a move. Matteo possibly going to try one as well, but Tuca's going to fight this back against the Ferrari driver. Gets that inside, but Matteo keeps his foot in. And the Ferrari driver manages to jump our championship leader, and Freddie's going to try for a move around the outside here. Try and get around the outside of turn 8. Keep it clean, guys. Nobody wants to die through there. But he does make the move. So Tuca's gone from 4th to 7th in about 3 corners, which is not what he wants to see. And it's possibly going to open Quill up to a run at him, as Freddie's going to make a move possibly on Matteo. He's going to try a look. But Matteo with the DRS as well. It's not coming off for him down. It's quite a short back straight. He does have a minor battery advantage, but it's probably not going to be sufficient on its own to drag him past down the straights. But I expect Matteo to have a go at Mateusz Jelinek in the Mercedes in front, down the pit straight. Try and get in the lead position in this train. As Freddie's going to pull alongside. Oh, that's some really smart driving from Freddie's. It stops Matteo pulling out and leaves him a little bit vulnerable, as Mateus is going to hold him up as well. Freddie manages to dart down the inside, though, of both of them and take P4 as Marek's managed to get the lead. Marek's closed that gap into Johnny, and he's managed to take the lead, but Johnny's going to fight this back. But neither of them have DRS. They were dead level going through DRS detection. So neither of them have DRS for the run down to 4, as Matteo and Mateus are going side by side through 3. And all this is doing is, while they fight, is just helping Freddie pull away and get back up into a pretty safe P4. And we've got Matteo round. The Ferrari driver's round, and he's been collected by Quill. And he's out of the race. Quill's got no front wing, but stays alive. That's a safety car. Oh, this is going to be a spicy last 2 laps. Everybody with a penalty is going to be suffering here. And we're going to have 2 laps of pure, unadulterated carnage. As everybody, I think, is probably going to come in for fresh tyres. Especially these front 3. They're probably going to get out ahead of Freddie if they pit. So they're not really losing all that much. And it's going to give them a massive advantage for a 2-lap sprint. Safety car will be forced in at the end of lap 27 and allow our drivers 2 laps to the end of the race. We could see absolutely anything here. Anybody currently still running, any of these 12 guys could, in theory, win this race. There's a little bit of chaos kicks off. I expect them to pit. Yeah, Marek's in, Johnny's in. Mateus coming in as well, as I expected they would do. I didn't think any of them were going to stay out. Freddie might stay out here. He's already on soft tyres, but I don't know how worn he thinks they're going to be. Yeah, no, he is coming in. So he's not dumb. So he's going to put some softs on. There is some of Mateus's front wing in the pit lane, so he's going to have to get a new front wing on. That's going to cost him some time. And Mateus and Tuca stay out. Mateus and Tuca stay out. Safety car's going to be in at the end of this lap. So they're going to want to get a move on behind the safety car and hope people can't catch up onto the back of them. That's going to leave them very vulnerable to the guys behind, though. I think Mateus has possibly done this a little bit tactically to try and help Marek, his teammate. The second Mercedes, currently running in P3. First of our drivers on those brand new soft tyres, with Johnny right behind him. Johnny's going to be wanting to get Tuca at the very least in order to minimise the number of points he gains on I in this race. So Mateus drops to P5 thanks to that wing change, and the guys staying out. Freddie's P6, he's put another set of fresh softs on. I am P7, Luke P8, Quill P9, who had to come in and get a new front wing anyway, as he was involved in the collision that caused that safety car. Washi, the second Aston Martin, P10, so he had a real good race and managed to get on the podium last week. Not going quite as well this week, but there's definitely a chance for something here. But he's going to have to get a wriggle on, get onto the back of this train, along with Nathan and Lucas, also on those fresh softs behind. So just Mateus and Tuca, the top 2, did not pit for that. Safety car will be forced in by the game here at the end of this lap. And we will have 2 laps of racing to decide who wins this race. It will be very interesting to see what sort of restart and defense Mateus and Tuca can put up at the top. They could do really well and maybe lose no positions or only 1 or 2. Or it could go really badly and they, in theory, could both drop out of the points. They're going to be at such a raw pace disadvantage just for the tyres. They're going to lose so much mechanical grip in that second sector. guys start getting a bit muscly to try and get them out of the way. And with Mateus slow rolling this restart here, as Lucas gets a 3-second time penalty, pushing really hard to get on the back of the train. Everybody is going to get on the back. Let's ride on board with Tuka for this restart, as Mateus is going to slow roll it all the way to the line. I have seen him do this last season, and he's gone now. And a little bit of a weave to try and get out of Tuka's DRS range. But Tuka's gone right with him, and we've got fighting behind as well. We're going to be 3 wide behind, and Freddie goes right down the inside and makes it 4 wide into turn 1. And there's big contact in there, but I think everyone's made it through facing the right direction. But it means Marek has dropped 2 places from P3 on the restart. He's dropped down to P5 in the Mercedes. And this fighting behind is allowing Tuka and Mateusz Jelinek to keep their places in the top 2. Tuka's going to be coming under heavy pressure from the press offs of Mateusz Golo and Freddie. And we've got a swap for the AlphaTauri boys. That might be tactical. Johnny letting Iron go in terms of fighting for the championship. It's probably the smart thing to do. And we've got a spinner, and that's Marek Zanamarowski. And he's round and in the wall, and he's out of the race. So that's very unfortunate. And while all that was going on, Freddie and Mateus both managed to go around the outside of turn 8 on Tuka and managed to relegate him down to P4. And now Iron's going to overtake him as well and drop him to P5. These are points Tuka cannot afford to lose in this championship fight. He's now going to be losing points to Iron. Johnny's going to be wanting to get past as well to help his teammate out in that Drivers' Championship battle. And now Freddie right on the back of Mateus. He's going to try down the inside. Takes a lot of curb on the inside there, but manages to keep the car pointing in the right direction. Gets a very good exit on those fresh soft tyres. And this Mercedes now is going to be a bit of a sitting duck. Mateusz Gola comes around the outside on the entry into turn 13. And that's going to release the top 2 to fight, as Mateus now going to be coming under attack from both the AlphaTauris, who have managed to clear Tuka, and they'll be looking to overtake the Mercedes on his 1 medium tyres. It was probably the right idea, try and hold people up for his teammate, but unfortunately Marek had that spin out of turn 8, so it's not really going to plan. Mateus fighting hard here, but Iron's managing to muscle his way through, and Tuka's round at the back, I think. No, that's Wadshi, it's the other Aston Martin. Tuka's still going, he's still in P6. But, oh, we've got a spin from Mateusz Jelinek, and the Mercedes has gone round in turn 4. The mediums not really working for him here with those worn tyres. They did get gobbled up just as quick as I expected them to do. Freddie's managed to pull a second out at the front, though, so he's managing to get away from Mateus. I don't think Mateus is going to be able to fight this, but Iron's got up onto the podium positions, although these top 3 do have penalties, so it will be very interesting to see what actually happens come the end of this race, what the gaps turn into. Once they all actually cross the line, Johnny could actually win this race, which he looked like he was going to do before that late safety car. Tuka managing to hold off Nathan still in P5 on those hard tyres. Nathan's going to be possibly trying to go for a move into turn 13. You might see him dive it down the inside, the Alpine driver. Chooses better of it, but he's going to be looking for a better exit. Goes off track, but manages to keep a little more traction. Just as we now look towards the line, Freddie comes around the final corners of 14 and 15. Gets a bit skady over the curbs, but he's going to win on track. Let's see what happens with the penalties. With a fastest lap of 27.1 as well. Mateusz Gola jumps in. Jonathan Foss wins the race because he had no penalties. Mateusz Gola P2 for the Alfa Romeo team, the reserve driver. Tuka gets on the podium. Tukabot keeping it clean as usual. Manages to hold off Nathan by 0.2 of a second. And Freddie with his penalties drops all the way down to P5. Quill P6. Iron drops to P7 with his penalties for AlphaTauri. So that is going to open up some more of a gap at the front between Tuka and Iron. Mateusz Jelinek manages to come home in P8 in the end. Possibly a bit of a gamble staying on the medium tyres, but one he maybe felt he had to make. Luke Mills again points in P9 for Alpine, second Alpine in the points. Wadshi Crocs in P10, the second Aston Martin. And Lucas Dirkson's had a moment out of the last corner and will unfortunately be our only driver to finish and not score points, as he's taking the piss. Doing donuts. Lucas, knock it off. But late safety cars tend to cause a little bit of chaos, and they are very, very dangerous for anybody that has any kind of penalties, as unfortunately Freddie found out. Wins on track, but comes over P5. But he did win on track, so it was a very good comeback on those soft tyres. He made up quite a lot of places, a lot of speed, and will be given driver of the day by the game. Probably rightly so. I mean, I think I might agree with that, to be totally honest with you. Whew. But Johnny was dominant, really. Just kind of caught out a little bit on the safety car. Although some good fighting between him, Marek, and Mateus for a lot of the race. But a bit nuts. Oh, how only 11 finished one? Oh, if only you knew. If only you knew. So what I'm going to do now is I'll grab the race director for anybody who has anything they want to challenge. See how many warnings and things everybody had. Quite a lot, lots of collisions here on lap 1, as is kind of expected, and quite a few track limit warnings as well. Speeding under safety car, some collisions under safety car as well, and see the penalties begin to rack up as we get later on in the race. Freddie and Lucas there with track limits extensions at the end as well on the final lap. Yeah, so 4 early pit stops, 4 front wing changes, and then a few more in the middle of the race. Nathan made 2 pit stops for front wings 4 laps apart, so we had a race about as well as mine went last week. Yesterday even. And that will conclude PC1 Bahrain, which was chaos. PlayStation not racing this week, as this was one of our missed races due to desync. So it's just been PC this week, and all 3 races have been a little bit crazy. I mean, hopefully it carries on as per as per the rest of the season. It's been a bit mental most weeks. But I've been Zeke. Next week I should be joined by Kikalin, by Dino again, hopefully. He's skiving off this week, hence why this is recorded and not streamed. And we will see you all then for a race at Saudi Arabia. First time it's been on the Formula 1 game, first time ERO was raced there, and likely to be nuts. So be prepared for another safety car with 2 laps to go again, I guess. Because we're probably going to get another one. So I will tune out now, and I will see you all next week, hopefully with my Croatian Crofty back again. Have a good day, guys.